Hello everyone. Welcome to Confessions Jury, where Reddit's AITAH stories go on trial. Make sure to listen carefully and express your verdict in the comments section below. Moving on to the first case. Case 1. Am I the bad person for sleeping with my friend's hall pass? I, 49F, have been friends with Sarah, 49F, for about 15 years. She's happily married with 2 kids. I'm amicably divorced with a kid. We met at our children's preschool. We've been there for each other through some tough times. Sarah has a huge crush on, I'll call him Jake, as long as I've known her. Jake is a popular, but not like stadium-filling musician. From what I can tell, he makes a living, has had popular albums, and has toured with A-listers. But he's not necessarily a household name. He's in his late 40s. Sarah has never met him. She's been to several of his concerts and owns a bunch of merch and considers Jake her hall pass. Again, she's married and would never actually cheat on her husband. Honestly, her crush never seemed off the rails to me. Like she'd joke about him wooing her through IG. But she didn't, stalk him. So let me say here, I would never, even when I was younger, date or even flirt with a guy a friend of mine was interested in. Fries before guys / friends before men, all that. It just wouldn't be cool. However, a few weeks ago, I randomly met Jake at a charity event. He was hired as the entertainment. We got to talking, and one thing led to another, and I ended up sleeping with him. It was a one-time thing. Fun, and we both knew it was casual. At first, I thought it was a funny, wild story to share with Sarah. After all, it's not like she would ever actually be with him, right? But when I told her, she looked really hurt. She wasn't mad exactly, but she said something like, "Wow, I can't believe you actually did that." And she's been distant ever since. I didn't think the friends before men rule applied here, because he was basically her movie star crush. Not a real romantic prospect for her. But now I'm second-guessing everything. I feel awful for upsetting her. But I genuinely didn't think it was that big of a deal. Now I'm wondering, AITA, what do you think about this one? Lay down the hammer in the comments section, and let's move on to the second case. Case 2. Would I be the bad person if I called CPS on my wife's sister for her child? I'm keeping this anonymous for obvious reasons. My wife and I are both late 20s, married for 5 years. We are happily married and no children, yet due to some fertility issues we are dealing with. My wife's sister is 20 years old and has a 3-year-old daughter with her on-again, off-again BF. The guy seems like a POS, but what do I know? My wife really loves her sister and the kid, who we babysit probably 1 to 3 days a week every week. My wife was very happy to babysit because she loves kid. I was happy to do what made her happy. This has been going on for about 6 months. In this time, I've become very concerned. The 3-year-old, while a very sweet kid, displays some concerning behavior. First of all, she is obsessively clingy towards my wife and very fearful towards me. The kid will literally be on my wife's hip for 4 to 6 hours a day and cry when she is let down. She avoids eye contact with me or essentially any male stranger. She also wets the bed every night, and sometimes 2 or 3 times. Sometimes she will lay in it all night, and sometimes she will wake my wife up. She also has nightmares and will often come to sleep with my wife, but be timid when she sees I am also there. Most of the time, she ends up sleeping by my wife's feet. She has issues about using the restroom too. Even though she is potty trained, she will wait hours and hours before going, and this results in a lot of infections that she is very often treated for. She also is picky surrounding food and what she will eat, and often says her throat hurts. This is even with food she previously liked and has eaten before. She also is destructive to her toys. She will draw all over the faces of her dolls and cut their hair off. When my wife asks her why, she just cries. She only has one single stuffed cat that she keeps safe. The other toys are destroyed. The worst and most telling part to me is when her mother comes to pick her up, wife's sister. She will screech and cry and kick and hit and shriek and fight them. They chalk it up to just her love towards my wife and reluctance to leave, but it seems more than that to me. I almost never see her dad, but I know in the last year, he has moved back in with them. I do not know what is going on for sure. I am sure you see what I am thinking. When I suggested it to my wife, she was extremely upset and offended that I would accuse her sister of that, or concealing that. She refused to even consider it, but I could tell she was thinking about it. I am not accusing her sister of perpetuating it or concealing it, but rather she might not even know. Anyways, it is clear that my wife isn't going to do anything about it though, and I truly don't know what to do, other than call CPS and explain the situation. Whipped if I did. What about that? Who would you rule for? State down your ruling, and let's move on to our third case. Case 3. Am I the bad person for refusing to support my brother's kids after he passed away, even though I'm financially able to? I, 38 am, have always had a complicated relationship with my younger brother, Jake, 34 m. Growing up, we were never close. Jake was the golden child in the family, and I was always expected to support him, help him out, and be there for him. Even when he made terrible decisions, he was always the reckless one, dropping out of college, getting into trouble, and having kids he couldn't really afford with multiple women. 5 months ago, Jake tragically passed away in a car accident, leaving behind 3 kids with 2 different women. It was devastating for the family, but I can't say Jake's life choices didn't contribute to some of his struggles. He had no life insurance, no savings, and left his kids in pretty bad shape financially. My parents, who are both retired and living on a fixed income, asked me to step up and help support Jake's kids. I'm financially stable, well off even. I run my own business, and my wife and I don't have kids of our own, so we live pretty comfortably. My parents think it's my responsibility to take over for Jake now that he's gone. They've been pressuring me to set up college funds for his kids, help with their living expenses, and even contribute to their mother's bills, as both women are struggling to make ends meet. Here's the thing. I don't want to. It sounds harsh, but I feel like I'm being asked to pay for Jake's mistakes. I don't have a relationship with these kids, and I barely had one with Jake. I've spent my whole life cleaning up his messes, and now that he's gone, I feel like I'm finally free of that obligation. I didn't ask him to have multiple kids with no plan for their future. My wife agrees with me, and she feels like we shouldn't have to sacrifice our financial freedom because of my brother's poor decisions. But now my family is furious with me. They're calling me heartless, saying I'm abandoning my own blood, and that Jake's kids will end up in poverty without my help. Some of my friends think I'm being too cold and should at least help a little, even if I don't go all in. I get that these kids didn't ask to be born into this situation, but I also don't think it's my responsibility to fix everything just because I'm the one with money. My wife and I worked hard to get where we are, and I feel like we shouldn't be expected to give that up for decisions we didn't make. So, am I the bad person for refusing to financially support my late brother's kids, even though I can afford it? I don't know what to rule for. What do you guys think? Type your verdict in the comments section as we move on to our next case. Case 4. Am I the bad person for kicking my brother out of my wedding for making my fiancée cry? My wedding was this past weekend, and I'm honestly still in shock over what happened. My fiancée, now wife, and I have been together for 7 years. We've gone through everything together, moving in, job losses, her battle with anxiety, everything. So our wedding day was supposed to be our day to finally celebrate all that, right? Well, it was, until my brother decided to ruin it. For context, my brother, 30M, has always had a weird thing about pranks. He calls them jokes, but honestly, they've always been mean-spirited and embarrassing. Growing up, I'd laugh it off or get mad, and he'd say I was being too sensitive. But this time, it went way too far. During our reception, he got up to give a speech. I thought it would be nice. Maybe he'd say something heartfelt for once. But no. Instead, he pulls out a fucking slideshow of hilarious photos of my wife. Old ones from her Instagram where she's crying, looking vulnerable, or just super unflattering. And he starts making jokes about her weight fluctuations, saying how she used to look like a twig when we first started dating, and now she's more well-fed. My wife's face turned white. She started crying quietly, and my brother, he just kept going, laughing like he was the funniest guy on the planet. The whole room was dead silent. I saw red. I stood up, walked right over to him, and told him to leave, right in the middle of his speech. I said he was done, and I didn't care if he was my brother. My wife was humiliated. He tried to brush it off, saying I was ruining the fun and that everyone else thought it was funny. No one laughed. Not one person. He refused to leave at first, so I told security to get him out. He stormed out, calling me a fucking drama queen on the way out. Now, my parents are furious with me for embarrassing my brother at my own wedding. They think I overreacted, that I should have let it slide because he didn't mean it. My mom even said my wife was overreacting too, and that this was all just part of his sense of humor. My wife hasn't stopped crying since. I told my family we're taking a break from them, but now my phone is blowing up with texts from my mom and dad, saying I fractured the family and ruined my own wedding over a joke. I get that I blew up, but I couldn't stand seeing my wife so hurt. Did I go too far? Am I the bad person? What do you think the fair ruling should be? You hold the power of judgment. State your ruling in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. In life, we may run, but we can never hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.